let's talk about the abomination that this movie created, the Super Son. Now, before you get at me, yes, I know that Superman has had children before, especially in the comics and in Superman and Lois, but that happened recently. Now, to a person who knows nothing about Superman, like Bryan Singer, this might seem okay. This might seem perfectly fine. But when you think about it, this has two glaring problems. Number one, this has never been done in the comics. Not only is Superman the oldest superhero ever created, he's also the most long-lived and most popular superhero, and every story has been done with the character. But one story that had never been done in almost 90 years of this character is giving Superman a son. Never. Why? Here's why. Because it paints him into a corner, and you would always run into this major problem. It's a stupid problem and a really stupid idea. Here's the problem. What do we do now? Because once Superman has a son, the story is over. Why? Because once Clark has a kid, he ceases to be Superman. Because he can't be a good father that's there for his son and be a superhero that's there to save the whole world, both at the same time. Like, Superman has to be there. Like, he would have to pick, he literally has to save the world 365 days a year, year in, year out, for his entire life. And he basically works around the clock saving people anyway. How can anyone raise a kid with a job like that? You can't. He would have to pick between raising his own flesh and blood or being Superman. So, he'd either be a deadbeat dad who abandons his son so he can fly around and do what he wants, or he hangs up the cape to be a good father, and the comic ends. You see why they never do it? Because no matter which one you do, it destroys his character. Now, admittedly, yes, they did. Hell, it paints him into a corner that even he can't get out of. Now, yes, they did it right with Superman and Lois, but this one they failed. So Superman has seen the facts from Lois telling him where she is, so he goes over the wall to try and rescue her, but he has to then choose between saving Lois or saving millions of other people, just like in the first movie. What, is he just going to turn back time again? Wouldn't put it past Bryan Singer. So Lex fires the crystal into the water, and even though a small crystal knocked out most of the city and blocked out the power, well, a full-size crystal does nothing except break a few windows and loosen a few pipes. Ridiculous. This guy falls and he's caught. The sign falls and it's caught. The glass falls and it's caught with Superman's heat vision. The planet globe falls and it's caught. You know, Superman can do a lot more than just catch shit that's falling. I mean, he does blow out the fire in the tunnel, but they were really struggling to create that situation, weren't they? And it's caused by a guy smoking a cigar? So stupid. Wait, you're leaving? Aren't you gonna sink the boat first to turn the Super Kid? He could get away. So Cyclops opens the door and Superman pulls the ship out of the water. Well, at least he's not just catching stuff now. Well, he kind of is. He sends them on their way and then does this. He stupidly jumps right into the middle of the situation without even bothering to find out what he's getting himself into.
Tonight. Didn't your dad ever teach you to laugh before you leap?
Exactly. And Superman in the last movie figured out just how devious Lex is, and he managed to outsmart him.
I knew you'd double-cross me, Luthor. A lying weasel like you couldn't resist the chance.
But since he has clearly forgotten everything he ever learned in the previous movies, including that his weakness is kryptonite, remember when you almost got killed? Everyone else seems to remember it except you. In fact, if this Superman had even half a brain, he would have x-rayed the entire island and noticed the kryptonite mixed in with everything. Everything! And how is he even able to be within 100 kilometers of this island without passing out? Hell, and he can stand on a kryptonite continent now without even keeling over? Are you kidding me? It's kryptonite! God! Okay, anyway, the Man of Steel gets stabbed. Gets dumped in the water, Cyclops and Lois pick him up, and then he gets a suntan and goes right back to the island where he just got whooped. What is he even doing anyway? What? What? So it's not enough that he can stand on top of kryptonite without anything happening. Now you're having him lift an entire continent of kryptonite without even breaking a sweat? Are you kidding me? Why even bother having kryptonite in this movie if he's basically vulnerable to it anyway? And does he have to solve every single problem by throwing something into space? Superman can do a whole lot more than just throw stuff into space. Oh, okay. So let me get this straight. In this version of Superman, kryptonite doesn't affect him, and then it does, and then it doesn't again, and then it finally does. Make up your mind. Decide whether he's vulnerable to it or not, and stick to it. And second, this isn't even close to how Superman died in the comics. The issue, where the Man of Steel died, is one of the most monumental stories in history, and to throw it away in such a careless, brainless manner is insulting. Insulting! And once again, if Singer had done any research, he would have realized how he's just shafted any chance of making a sequel to this movie. Not just by giving Superman a kid, but he could have used really two interesting storylines to make audiences care after all of this garbage. And what are those two storylines? Well, those two are only the iconic storylines of the death of Superman, which they can't use because they just wasted it, or Superman and Lois Lane getting married, which they can't use either because Lois is already engaged to a different guy and they sealed it with a kid. Well, Singer, what are you going to do now? Singer, what are you going to do now? Oh, you don't know? Well, maybe you should have done a bit of research before you went and wrote this garbage. No wonder they did 2 reboots after this. Because you let them know where else to go. Wow, Singer, good job, man. Good job. So, he just wakes up. He just gets up and he's all like, oh yeah, I'm fine now. That's real dramatic. You know, if you're gonna have him wake up like that, at the very least, have the sun come in through the window. So it would make sense for him to regenerate. So we can at least put that clue into our heads. But there's not even any light in that room. Oh my God, Singer, you have no clue what you're doing. And now we cut to the biggest difference between this Superman and the Christopher Reeve Superman. And it cuts right to the heart of the frickin' problem.
You will be different. Sometimes you will feel like an outcast. But you'll never be alone. You will make my strength your own. You will see my life through your eyes as your life will be seen through mine. The son becomes the father, and the father becomes the son.
Now that sounds nice. It does. It sounds very nice and poetic. But apart from his cryptic remarks about not being alone and his line to Lois later, saying, well, this.
Will we see you? Around?
I'm always around.
He never actually says anything solid about his responsibilities here. In the original, after his Earth father Jonathan passes away, he takes full responsibility for the welfare of his aging mother.
Excuse me, Mr. White. I was wondering if perhaps you could arrange for half my salary to be sent to this address on a weekly basis.
You're Bookie, right?
What?
Don't tell me. He sends a check every week to his sweet gray-haired old mother.
Actually, she's silver-haired. I'll see what I can do. Thank you very much, Mr. White.
Any more at home like you?
Not really, no.
So now he's facing a very similar situation. What will he do? Will he take responsibility and do what's right? No. Does he insist that they need to tell Cyclops the truth, that he's not actually the kid's father? No. He evidently is totally fine with letting this kid raise his own son under the mistaken impression that it's his. The real Superman would not knowingly use a deception like this. If he was going to be there for his son, he would say so, clearly and directly. And even if he is saying that very cryptically, that he'll be there to help the kid when he comes of age, okay, well then why doesn't he just say that? But even if we go with that, it still doesn't solve the tiny, insignificant little problem with Cyclops. I mean, how long are you going to keep letting the man think that he's the father? I mean, he's going to find out sooner or later, and then when he does find out, he's going to tell his uncle who runs the Daily Planet, and then there's going to be a huge scandal, and everyone's going to start hating Superman for being such a huge jerk. He could learn a lesson from Spider-Man here. Bryan Singer wrote a Superman with all the power, but none of the responsibility. And this movie just does not get Superman at all. The Superman that is beloved by millions of people around the world is the exception to the rule of power corrupts. And he has no greater, he has all of these powers, but he doesn't think that any of it makes him superior to any of us. Okay? He uses his powers in the service of others, and there is no greater power for him than his own conscience. And he always obeys that conscience and does what's right. And that's why he's a superhero. Not because of his powers, but because of who he is. He's just a guy trying to do the right thing. The light to shine the way. They quote it in this movie, but the way they do Superman's actions shows that they really don't understand what that means. My friend once told me, right is right, even if everyone isn't doing it, and wrong is wrong, even if no one is doing it. And quite frankly, that is Superman. He is a superhero. He is Earth's greatest savior. He's the Man of Steel. He's the man of tomorrow. He may be Clark Kent. He may be Kal-El. But for all of us, we see him as, well, a friend. And that's what we all need most. Now, Lois actually was going to write something about why the world needs Superman. Does it say anything about what I just said? No. It's a blank frickin' page. How ironic is that? I'm sure it wasn't intended to be ironic, but no. This whole page is blank. And now that we're at the end of this review, all I have to say is this. This movie sucks.